What's up, boys? You ready to do another one of these episodes?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I
I like that.
I thought about entering the whole episode. I'm like, fuck it. I'm just gonna say, what's up?
I like the low key.
Yeah, I mean, like, Rogan does that, right? I don't know if he actually does that on his actual show, but like the YouTube videos, like you just start them and it's like the Joe Rogan experience, and then they're in the middle of a conversation. I'm like, what the fuck did they say before? Like, I want to know. How did they get here to this point? But they're just in mid conversation.
It was apparently worthless.
Well, maybe, like, or maybe it was the most important part and they censored it.
Ah.
I mean, you never know.
It's slightly conspiratorial, but it's perfect for his audience. So
I was gonna say, isn't that part of the shtick? So
I do, like, I'm not a big, like, I don't listen to Rogan's podcast regularly, but like sometimes there's a couple things that'll come across YouTube that I'll be like, this is really interesting, and I'll watch the whole 2-3 hours, like in the background doing something else. He explores some interesting topics from time to time, so that's what we try to do here. So
indeed,
we're just not as is it mainstream? Like, I don't even know. You can't call Rogan mainstream.
Oh, he has to be at this point. He's the number one. He is
at this point, whether people like it or not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right?
Yep.
So anyway, okay. So what came across our desk this week? Who wants to start?
I can start because it's something that literally just happened a few minutes ago. As everyone knows, I mentioned how my alma mater, Western Michigan, won the national championship in hockey.
No, you've never said that before, Scott. It's shocking. Congratulations.
I just want to remind people every now and again, they forget.
I want to remind people the Cavs destroyed the Miami Heat.
Destroyed. Like
fucking destroyed. So what's up now? Anyway, sorry.
Don't interrupt while I'm trying to talk about my Broncos. My national championship hoodie arrived.
Okay.
And very, very excited about it. Really nice looking hoodie.
A few minutes ago? How come? Put it on.
Yeah, where is it?
Oh, I'm going to show you.
Oh.
It's backwards for us.
Is it?
Yeah.
Can you see?
Yes, I can see it, but like the logo is backwards for us.
Right.
I think if you model it but put it on backwards, it might work.
Yeah, turn it inside out, maybe?
Yeah. What I want you to attend to is, even though it's backwards, is see where the Bronco logo is, the horse?
Yes.
Yeah.
What does it say right above it?
Something
Boston University Terriers.
Boston University Terriers.
Yeah. They fucked up my Broncos sweatshirt.
What is with that?
There, I said it.
What is it supposed to say?
They put the losing team on there. It doesn't say like kicked the ass of. Maybe they should have put that right over top. Kick the ass of.
They did it on both sides, front and back, too.
Oh, that's a drag.
So,
wow.
So there. I'm almost speechless. Like,
I mean, it's a good thing you aren't, because we're live on a podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what happens when you order. And, I'm going to say maybe this is a little bit of revenge, because when I ordered it and I got the tracking, it was shipped from China. And I'm thinking they're punking me because of the whole tariff thing. And this is what it's all about.
Wouldn't you, if you were China, wouldn't you? Like, I mean, honestly, like if I was China or in the government of China, I sure would be fucking with Americans hardcore. I would be.
Well,
I have, like, I mean, you know me, I like to have fun with people anyway.
Mission accomplished.
But I don't like, I also don't know, like, if they're reaching all, like, I can see the professional, like, real teams like the Cavaliers, but going all the way down to college to the semi-important but not really teams. I didn't even get a reaction from him, Greg. I thought I was going to get a reaction.
No, the Cavaliers kick ass, dude. I don't watch college sports.
I did the semi-important college thing, and he just took it. He didn't even say anything back.
But I tell you what, Scott, you should be upset, dude, because I mean, you didn't just win the national championship. You beat Boston College to win the national championship. That is akin to
Is there any proof that this actually happened? There's no shirt or anything like that, so
that's right.
I don't know. Like, it could all be made up. Scott looks grumpy now.
Maybe it is.
Better stop.
Maybe it is made up.
It's all fake news.
It's AI generated.
The whole game and everything.
Like, it could be. Like, it is really hard sometimes for me to tell. I've been tricked a couple times with photos. Like, the videos you can still tell right now, right? But I think it's funny. Like, I won't go in. We're going to talk about this, but I think it's funny, the whole simulation theory thing, because I'm a subscriber to that. Like, that we're in a simulation. For sure I am. Because, like, what are we going to do? Like, right now, you can already start to do the fake videos and fake things, and there's AIs that can build the fake games and fake worlds. Like, you don't think that when we have the capability to do that, we're going to build a whole simulated world with fake humans inside it who believe they're real? Of course we are. We're like less than 20 years away from that. So why is it unlikely that nobody's done it to us?
You know what that means, Scott? All the LARPers are going to stop. It's not going to be live action role play anymore. It's gonna be completely like augmented fake AI role play. I don't even know what the acronym for that's going to be.
Well, right now's your chance. Make it up. Lead the conversation, man.
I wish.
LARPing doesn't sound cool, but it sounds like it's got a good catchy name, right? Like it's got a strong word behind it.
Yes,
like,
and you are correct. It is definitely not cool unless you're in it, and then it's
live
really
action
cool.
role playing.
Yeah.
So AI role playing would be ARPing.
No, the retired people already have ARP. You can't have that. We can't. Oh, AIR. AIR. Okay.
AIR, yeah.
We can't do AARP.
ARPing.
That we'd be sued. So we'll have to come up with something better for that.
Ooh, Booker's is nice. Sorry, that's my choice today.
So before we got on, here's the thing that came across my desk. I just for kicks because I was reading, and I know we seem to always stumble back into this.
Yeah.
But as of today, consumer sentiment is down even further.
Is that the same report? Because I saw that, and I feel like I keep seeing new reports come out every 2 weeks. I'm like, don't they do this shit once a month? This is a lot of activity.
But so you have like this one's University of Michigan, and they
which is the important one that I always see cited.
I do too. Scott, would you agree? Is that that's the big one besides the Conference Board Consumer Index?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, University of Michigan, it fell another almost 5 points. It was 57 in March, which was really, really low, considering it was 77 a year ago, and now it's down to 52.2 in April.
Here's what I want to know. I want to know what the real fucking numbers are, because, like, all right, like, put yourself in this position, right? So I'm the survey person that's calling on the phone and asking you how you think of the economy. And there's the people who are like, I think it's good. There's the people, which are small. I think it's the people who are like, this is mediocre. It could go either way, or maybe it's short term. There's the people who think it's like pretty bad, which are reflected in the numbers. But the people who think it's really bad, aren't they just like, fuck you, God, and they hang up on him because they're angry?
The Brian Searles of the world, they were like, watch this.
Yeah,
watch
so
this.
Like, isn't it like probably much worse than what the survey data indicates? Because really grumpy people who are negative don't want to talk on the phone?
But by that same metric, then couldn't it also be a lot better? Because the people are like, I'm not gonna fucking talk to this guy. Just hang up the phone. And then
but those people are grumpy for a reason, Greg.
But those
and are they grumpy because of a really good economy where they're making a lot of money? I don't know.
Typically, no. That's true. That's a really good point. I always just figure, the two ends are going to cancel each other out because there's dickheads at either side, and then everybody else.
Normally, yeah, but like I mean, I don't know. Let's ask. It would be nice if we had a data expert on the show to ask.
It would, wouldn't it? Who can we get?
I don't know, but like for shits and giggles, do you want to fill in temporarily, Scott?
Okay. Ask me anything.
Well, I just did, man. Like, are the people at the opposite ends of the spectrum who won't talk to the survey people? They tend to be more negative and have an outlook, right, on life, general, whatever they're being asked. And so if you're asking about the economy, isn't it more likely that the people who are having a bad experience or a negative outlook would be more likely to hang up than the good people would be to stay on or hang up? Whatever. I don't know. Something like that.
No, there's been a lot of studies that have shown that is not the case.
Well, all right. You're fired. We need another fucking data guy.
It's
I'm looking for confirmation of my bias here.
What you're trying to do is introduce your bias to us.
Yes, exactly.
Captain Negativity over there.
It's our show. We can do whatever we want.
So no, overly negative or overly positive people are no more likely to respond than anyone else. It's been, in fact, the University of Michigan did a study on that exact issue.
So tell me then, Scott, or if you know, and maybe none of us know this, but I'm just curious. You have the University of Michigan, then you have the Conference Board Consumer Confidence Index, and clearly they measure it completely differently because the confidence index is down to 86 from 93.9, but down a similar amount of points, but just measuring it differently, I assume. Do you know much about how they measure those two things?
No, what they do is, I'm sorry about the dogs.
Yeah, the Hounds of Bahr, no big deal.
Right now. They have these proprietary ways of doing it. They create an index, and they don't really ever tell you exactly how they calculate it.
Okay.
Then someone else would do it, and they would replicate it. So, it's all pretty similar. It's all a fairly similar approach to it. Again, as long as you don't get a bunch of Brian Searles answering, your surveys, you're going to get fairly similar results typically. And
usually, to be fair, like, I don't think that's really a leap. Like, I was sort of a little bit being entertaining, right? But like, doesn't that sort of make sense? Like, if you were really grumpy, you wouldn't want to talk to somebody about your grumpiness. I don't know.
Or maybe you want to vent.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's fair. Valid point. Point taken.
And that's what happens. That's why it all, on balance, it turns out just fine. And the cooperation rate, again, is fairly similar. And if you design your questions appropriately, then the person's mood won't affect it too much typically. But anyway, to get back to your point on kind of those metrics, Greg, is that what they do is they typically include enough different measurements so that it's fairly sensitive to any kind of change, so that it can fairly easily detect any kind of change overall within there without letting one thing overwhelm it.
Okay.
Do we?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
No, please.
I was just going to say, do we want to get clarity on the difference between consumer confidence and consumer sentiment from Burnout Bob? I have it. It's available if you are interested in hearing.
Is that one we should be asking Bob about? Isn't Bob just
probably
a campground guy?
Like, I don't know. Like, do you want to see this? Do you want to see this or not? We have consumer confidence equals I have a job and money. I might actually go camping. This is the number of people scream about when they're talking about employment, income stability, or whether they feel like spending money on non-essential stuff like your campground, baby. So if consumer confidence is down, it means people are clutching their wallets like it's their grandma's secret chili recipe. They might cancel the RV trip and just cry in their driveway instead. And you'll see fewer bookings, shorter stays, and more folks asking, can I bring 9 people to a tent site for $12?
That's a real thing right there, yeah.
And then consumer sentiment equals I feel weird about the future, so I'm going to panic plant tomatoes. This is a vibes-based economics, the mood ring of the masses. It tracks fear of inflation, layoffs, government shenanigans, worries about world events, aliens, AI, Chainsaw Larry running for office. So if consumer sentiment is down, it means people might have money, but they're still stress buying canned goods. They're hesitant, nervous, and kind of grumpy, and they might still camp, but they'll pick a cheaper site, skip the glamping tent, and bring Spam instead of steaks. So this means for your campground, confidence down equals we're broke, no camping this year, honey. Booking slump, glamping, forget it. They're showing up with a tarp and a dream. Expect more questions like, can we just sleep in the parking lot and borrow your bathroom key? Sentiment down equals we could camp, but what if the economy explodes mid-s'more? People still book, but later and with more hesitation. They'll obsess over cancellation policies like they're decoding the Da Vinci Code. They'll want comfort, but be suspicious of spending too much. If both are down, which is our situation, we're agreeing?
Yep, that's what it's showing.
Time to lean into low-cost, high-vibe events. Discount codes like Mild Panic 2025. If nice. Confidence is okay, but sentiment is low, well, we don't have to read that because it's not. So, but blah, blah, blah. Okay.
What I can't believe is that a bunch of Bob's bullet points right there fell exactly in line with a lot of the data that Scott shared based on our earlier conversations about consumer sentiment and confidence. Right, Scott, would you agree? Some of those, he definitely hit on some of your data points.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
He's been listening to you. Or Scott is the Clark Kent to Burnout Bob.
Ooh.
I mean, that makes sense. That's why I won't say the F word on air.
And when if he were to have put that sweatshirt on, we might have seen a bee on his chest as he lifted this shirt to pull the other one down.
We'll never know.
We're back into full conspiratorial mode, but I'm going to log that one making notes.
I'm actually going to say, like, I want to see generate an image of yourself. We've never done that, right?
No.
And we'll look at that later in a little bit. But because we need to turn Burnout Bob into action figures. I bet you we could sell it to campground owners. Like, they just put a little Burnout Bob, like, bobblehead doll by their cash register, like, facing away, and people would just not know what it is. But every time they looked at it, they'd be like, oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know what that is.
But just glance at it while they're talking to the guest who's a problem child, complaining about something. All right. So that was your. So do you have anything else to add to yours, Greg? Or
no, man, that's it. I'm shocked that it's. And I guess I shouldn't be shocked. I'm not shocked, but it is falling precipitously. This is the fourth consecutive monthly decline and lowest level since July of 2022 for consumer sentiment, consumer confidence. This is the fifth consecutive monthly decline of consumer confidence and lowest reading since May of 2020. What was happening at that time? It was something.
We were opening everything back up in America. That's what was happening in May of 2020. It was all fine. Everything was great.
That's right. Everything was hunky-dory. I can't imagine why confidence was down.
Everything was fine. It only lasted 2 months.
That's right.
It is interesting though. Like, I don't think even I realized the difference between sentiment and confidence though, because then it sort of makes sense that sentiment appears to like be falling quicker, is like further. Is that fair, Scott?
Yeah.
So like it makes sense then what Burnout Bob was saying. Like they're willing to probably maybe keep spending, but they are hesitant, right? And so that reflects a little bit of our advanced reservations have been flat or up over 2024 with some of the people. Then how long does it take consumer confidence to be impacted?
Yeah.
It would be interesting. That would be like when we're living through a real-time data chart that we can reference, right? Oh, he doesn't look as crazy as I thought he would. Like, yeah, he didn't make himself look that crazy.
That's not as crazy as you thought. I would love to know what you thought he would look like. I think it's interesting.
Questions. Like he said, I can totally generate an image of himself. But real quick, do you want Bob to look like? And I just said, you decide. He said a deranged wilderness expert with a mullet, sunglasses, and a clipboard made of bark. A mysterious raccoon in a vest who runs the campground with questionable authority. That would have been better. A weathered ex-park ranger wearing 5 fanny packs and yelling at a grill. Or something else entirely from your warped imagination. Anyway. So my thing was, I think I told you about this on the ClickUp channel a little bit. Just because we're just going to go unrelated. I normally say AI or something. It's like insurance. So I didn't have to, but I'm going shopping for like a new insurance company because they stopped covering one of the policies that I had in Ohio. For whatever reason they do these things, right? Like we'll cover it here, but we won't cover it in Ohio all of a sudden. And then you ask the agent, like, well, why did they stop? I don't know. Just because somebody woke up and felt like Ohio, like, did they pass a law? Like there's got to be a reason behind this, right? But they never tell you. And so anyway, I'm going shopping for new companies. Like, all right, like, I want to have everything all in one place. And now I don't have this policy that's going to be discontinued. So I've got to find something. And like, I will tell you, like the amount of bouncing around that you have to do for insurance, and campground owners probably know this too, right?
Yep.
Like we've talked a lot about AI and jobs and robots and robots and how things are going to like result in layoffs. And like, I don't want to see that. Like, I'm not saying I know it's coming. I don't want to see that. I'm empathetic to all the people who have all the jobs, right? But when you go through an exercise like trying to buy insurance, and I started at Progressive, and I went to their website, and then I called Progressive, and then you realize like Progressive doesn't actually sell any insurance. They're all just like sending you to other people. Cool. Why do you exist? Number one, if you don't like, obviously Progressive does other things, to be clear, right? So they're but generally speaking, so then they take all my information and they go through this whole thing and they look up in their system and they're like, I'm sorry, like we can do this quote and this quote, but not this quote, which is totally different than what I needed anyway. So I would have had to go to them. I would have had to, anyway, whatever. It's like, but we can transfer you to our partner and they have all kinds of options and they all know some of your questions. So they transferred me there. And then I had to go through the whole thing again. It's another person who's just like, we don't actually sell insurance, but we can connect you with other people. And so I go through the whole thing. And then they're like, okay, let me check my computer and like, oh, like I have this other partner who can do this. Let me transfer you. And then it's another person who just goes like, why do these people exist? Like, I mean, I know it's great that they have jobs, right? And I recognize the fine line that I'm walking here, and I'm probably crossing. But like, surely, like, this is the most inefficient system in the world, right? Like, surely, like, whether it's AI or a single human, like, why doesn't the broker just, or the company that offers insurance just hire somebody to quote people? It doesn't make sense to me to have all these middlemen. Like, is there a reason for this that I'm missing, or it just feels like there's entire companies out there that exist, like entire companies with hundreds or thousands of employees that do nothing but type a sentence in a computer and redirect somebody somewhere for basically an affiliate commission, right? That feels like not a sustainable long-term path to, I don't know. It feels like those should, I don't want to say should, because again, I'm empathetic and I don't want anybody to lose their job, right? But it feels like those are the first positions that probably are going to go.
Yeah. Yeah, once the call bots get out there, they're gone. They could be trying to use the police interrogation method. You know, they put you in the room and they keep you talking, then they leave you there, then they keep you talking, they leave you there, and you're there for like 8-10 hours, and finally you're like, I'll sign the confession. What
or like good cop, bad cop? Like,
out.
did he say something different to somebody else or whatever? Like, but
Yeah.
still,
yeah,
just put yourself in the eyes of the consumer, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's lead gen. It's the same thing as affiliate links that are all over the internet. And this is how we have like 20 trillion 10 best of things that are not the actual 10 best of anything. They're
right?
the shittiest ones that pay the most money.
Right.
And like, God bless all the people who have figured out how to make a business out of that. Like, you're in deep trouble with search. We'll talk about that later, right? And these people are the same way, just the physical embodiment of that, right?
What happens is the more steps you take, the more likely you are to abandon your call. And that's part of the calculus.
I was an hour and 45 minutes.
You are an outlier. Most people won't do that.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
Well, I needed insurance, right?
Yeah.
So like, you know,
but again, most people will abandon and they might try it again later or something, but it's a way to manage call volume. So yeah,
but what's the benefit then? That like to spread the call volume out, or like what? I don't know. I fail to understand how the end result businesses benefit from this, or anybody in the chain, right? How do they benefit from me hanging up earlier? I guess is what I'm asking.
Is if they don't have the ability to again manage the call volume at that moment. They're
So
better.
they'd rather lose a potential customer. Like, I get the filtering and the screening and the lead qualifying. That makes sense to me, right? That piece of it. But I don't know. Anyway, like, we don't spend much of the show or any of the show talking about this. But it was just interesting to me. Like, it's the same thing when you call the cable company, right? Like, and I talk to people all the time about this. I don't ever want to talk to a robot on the phone. As soon as the second you talk to an AI on the phone, who can either go, I have a quote for you because I've searched all of the systems on the internet. Doesn't matter if I have a partnership with them or not. I can just go to their website and search and figure it out for you, or call them on the phone while you're like simultaneously. I can clone myself and call them on the phone, right? And talk to them and negotiate while I'm talking to you, and then come back and like transfer myself to myself, or I don't know how this is going to work. But the second you talk to somebody at the cable company who can fix your bill without having to talk to 8 different departments and then find out it hasn't actually been fixed when they tell you it has, you're never going to want to talk to him again. I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's fact. If you sit back and admit it to yourself, right? And again, I feel empathy for all the people who are going to lose their jobs in that case. I really do. Like, I'm not saying, I can't even say that. That's a lie, right? Like, because I do want it to happen because I don't want to talk to the 8 people. But also, like, I don't want anybody to lose their job, right?
Yeah, but you don't want it to happen so that people lose their jobs.
That's a really tough line, though. Like, remember weeks ago we were talking about the dock workers and all that stuff, right? It's really hard to talk about.
Yeah, it is, because you can sense it coming, but you don't want to see it happen. But it's going to happen.
I do. Yeah, I just don't want it to result in the layoffs, but I do want it to happen. So I don't know. Anyway, so that was my thing for the week.
And that's probably a whole show we could do on insurance for campgrounds right now. You sparked off another thought in my head, like maybe that's next week or something, because the rates, it's ridiculous right now how much they've gone up for so many different properties, kind of regardless of location and liability exposure. The insurance has just gone up like mad. So.
Well, and a lot of it can because it's monopolies too, right?
Yeah.
Like, same thing with me. Like I'm going through, like, they're searching like 30, 40 different companies, and there's only, like, if I want one provider, because I got to have general liability. I don't have to have business property like I do in Canada for here, but I don't need United States business owner property because all my team works remote in the United States, Canada, overseas, whatever else. And so, like, I need general liability, but I also need errors and omissions, professional liability, and then I also need cyber for data. Like, the amount of companies that will quote all three of those is literally like 2. And one of them I called, and they're like, they don't. Or the one that does all three is the one that discontinued the general liability, I think, in Ohio. Anyway,
weird.
Whatever. So, all right, let's dive into KOA data. We're gonna do this. You got a thing, Lisa. We need the KOA report pulled up again. Never mind, I can find it over here. I always say that like every week, but where do we want to do? We do want to talk about the KOA report, right? KOA.
Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah.
2025 KOA North American Camping Report. What are we going to talk about today, Scott?
I think the thing I'd like to bring up is kind of the economic impact of camping. Just from, and this isn't, just so we're clear, we don't go into a lot of detail on economic impact stuff in this report. Why?
Yeah.
Because we're not economists. And it's,
I feel like I keep asking why for a while, but I'll let you go.
It's not, no, it's actually, that's actually a good question. And we keep it pretty simple overall, because it's pretty complicated to do on a broader scale. And there's other people who do stuff like that. The government does, for example. They talk about employment, wages and so on.
Trust the government, though.
What's that?
I believe in KOA more than I believe in the government.
Well, you might as well, because I'm sure that the people who do this stuff are gone. So it's like you better rely on someone else anyway.
Yeah. But okay, we got it pulled up. Tell us where to start.
Just go to what's it, page 19. Yeah, page 19. It's the economic impact of camping and outdoor hospitality. So essentially here, when we talk about this, what we're primarily referring to is that, how does camping and how do campers impact the communities that they visit when they go camping? And so what we measure is like how much are they spending, essentially. So what we look at is, so if a group stays for a weekend at a local community, how much do they spend there? And so from that, what we have is kind of the average amount spent. You can see is it keeps going up, which is great at one level. But I do think part of that,
like, is it, how much of that is I'm spending more, or I have to spend more because inflation?
It's both. I'm sure it's both. That I'm sure inflation had something to do with that, the level of increase we saw, especially from year to year. But it also, if you apply inflation to it, what would the difference be? I guess we could do that and determine, what the.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think KOA needs to do that. It would just be, it's interesting to understand, like, is it actually increasing or is it flat?
I think it's actually increasing, just because it's consistent. Because that year over year increase is fairly. Because what I would say to prop that up a little bit is that one of the things that people like to do when they go camping is to visit local communities, and we have an increased number of campers who spend more of their time eating out at restaurants and so on, instead of cooking their meals at their campsite. So that spend alone is something that's going to increase the more, because the self-sufficient campers are declining. It's the people who arrive and they don't prepare their own meals. They also look for entertainment, a lot of entertainment, and they visit local communities and spend money. So
this is interesting to me, right? Like I had initially, like I don't think you were on here yet. I told Greg a little bit about what we were going to talk about with robots later. And I for sure did not intend to mix this in, but Greg, you can kind of see like how this ties into what he's saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're spending all this money outside of the campground. Like, why wouldn't you just want that? Like, obviously you do want that there, but why wouldn't you try to create experiences that keep them there? Or is it not possible because they want like the chef and the experience that like you really can't provide?
That's part of it, but the other part is that food service in a campground is just freaking hard. It's really, really hard. You've got to have a park that can also draw in people from outside, or a huge park that churns out enough business 5 days a week to keep that restaurant going.
Because restaurants are very unprofitable. Not unprofitable, but like profit margins are very slim in restaurants.
About 10%.
And wages are expensive, right?
Yep. Yeah, about 90%, based on people that I know that are restaurateurs and have been in restaurant industry for a long time. About 10% is your NOI.
Okay, so can I have permission to flip this a little bit, Scott, and we'll come back to your data for a second?
Sure. No, that's
directly related. Okay, Lisa, we're gonna take this video and we're gonna play it in little chunks because it covers different companies, but it's directly related to food service and the ability, I think, of like a game-changing ability in the future for campgrounds to be able to capture and recapture some of this data. So go ahead and share it, Lisa, and then I'm just going to tell you to we'll play one subject, and when it flips, just pause it, right? Like you'll see the clear demarcation of the flip, and then you can probably blow up that and make it full screen in the bottom right-hand corner of the player, like on the actual YouTube thing itself. Like hit that, yeah. I don't know who the Kara show is, but thanks guys for putting this YouTube video together for us.
Bangkok is an amazing city that has something to offer for every curious tourist. For example, if you step off the traditional tourist routes and delve deeper into the city, you may stumble upon a very unusual restaurant called Hajime Robot Restaurant. Upon arriving, you'll first need to decide whether you'd like to order pre-prepared dishes from traditional Thai, Japanese, or European cuisine, or if you'd prefer to cook for yourself. After placing your order, a funny samurai robot will arrive with everything you need. Once you've finished your meal, the robot will take away the dirty dishes. These skillful robots are great at lifting spirits, often flirting and behaving charmingly. If you're visiting with children, they might even perform a dance for you. The prices at the restaurant are quite modest, with an average bill typically not exceeding $20. This place is a must-visit for all robotics enthusiasts, as it's impossible to leave disappointed.
All right, so that's one. Let's watch one more and then we'll pause it for a second.
The world's first fully robotized cafe lounge called Ratio Cafe and Lounge has opened in Singapore. Located in the Centrepoint Mall, the venue offers visitors a unique experience by using robots to prepare beverages. The cafe is equipped with robotic arms that can make over 50 different types of drinks, including coffee, cocktails, tea, and other signature beverages. Guests can place orders through a mobile application or via interactive screens at the cafe. Once the order is placed, the robotic arms automatically mix and serve the drinks with high precision, ensuring consistent quality and taste.
For sure, the first time I watched
In addition
that,
to beverages,
coffee.
Ratio also offers various snacks and dishes such as salads, toasts, and desserts.
All right, Lisa, you can pause it for a second. All right, so and then come back to us. We're somewhere. So that's the first thing, right? Like the coffee, and there's going to be some other interesting ones. But I don't know how sophisticated those robot arms are that were, like, obviously they are very sophisticated, or how much those specific arms cost. But there's a company called Hugging Face that's big into the AI space that has a lot of open source stuff on their website. Like it's a really complex company, right? But they do a lot of hosting and people test early models there and stuff like that. And they have a product of one of these like arms that you can buy for like, I think $150 now on their website. Like you have to do all the training yourself, right? So you have to train like the arm to do whatever you decide you want the arm to do. But I think in theory, like you could probably like do this. I just don't know how robust they would be compared to what is clearly probably an industrial company that offers these arms, right? Of some capacity. But like that's already there. That's not a full humanoid, but like you have to imagine that would scale. And like if you can put that in such a small footprint, and I'm not saying coffee makes sense for every campground, right? Or everything we're going to look at. But doesn't that make it a whole lot more easy to capture some of that revenue, Scott?
Absolutely.
Yep, cuts out that labor.
All right, let's look at a couple more because we'll put this behind us, Lisa.
The British company Moley Robotics has created the world's first personal chef robot that cooks and cleans up after itself. The robot kitchen is a suspended system with 2 mobile manipulators, whose movements mimic the delicate hand motions of a professional chef. The robot was trained in proper kitchen techniques and sequences by British chef Tim Anderson. Anderson's cooking methods were captured in 3D and then transformed into the robot's movements using algorithms. The device confidently replicates hand movements, retrieves ingredients from a smart refrigerator, adjusts temperatures, uses cookware in the sink, mixes, measures ingredients, and performs other tasks. The price of the robot is comparable to that of an average townhouse in the UK or a small yacht, around $333,000.
That's it.
Despite this, the developer has already received 1,200 inquiries from potential buyers.
But that price is going to come down really fast, right?
The robot's menu will be expanded monthly, and it is expected that the number of available recipes will eventually exceed 5,000.
Like imagine that though, like putting one of those things, even if it costs $300,000, you could offer, like if you could offer 5,000 different recipes, you can keep going, Lisa. We'll watch a couple of them. Like then you don't have to specialize.
The startup Hyperfood Robotics has kept up with technological progress by developing a fully automated fast food restaurant. This innovative restaurant is equipped with robots that handle all kitchen functions, including preparing pizzas, burgers, salads, and other dishes without human involvement. The establishment is a container kitchen equipped with 2 robotic arms, 120 sensors, and 20 AI-powered cameras.
Said, right?
Yep.
The robots can make up to 50 pizzas per hour using 3 convection ovens, a conveyor system, an automatic slicer and packager, as well as 30 pizza warming cabinets and ingredient storage systems. The robots perform all tasks independently,
I'm hungry now.
from kneading dough to packaging finished dishes, and even clean themselves every 40 minutes using ozonated water, which kills bacteria and viruses. The company Cafe X has launched a fully autonomous coffee bar capable of preparing drinks without human involvement. Their robotic coffee bar 2.0 features a robotic barista that makes coffee to order using a mechanical arm. This is not just a technological novelty,
That's crazy how
but a
it doesn't
practical
spill that
solution
drink.
for
That is
fast
really
and high-quality beverage service in various locations,
The amount of
such as
calculations
office
that have to be
buildings,
going on.
airports, or shopping malls. The unit takes up only 40 square feet and can
Like
be
if you're a
installed
human, you
almost
feel
anywhere.
like that's so variable, right? It's just
Customers can
random,
order
like,
drinks
maybe I'm
through a
gonna spill it, maybe
kiosk
I'm
or
not,
an
but it's actually a
application,
math calculation.
after which the robot precisely prepares a variety of beverages. The French startup Padzi Robotics has developed the world's first fully autonomous robot for making pizza.
I'm gonna have to order
The main
pizza
feature
now.
of Padzi is its robotic pizzeria, where the entire pizza-making process is automated, from kneading the dough to baking and serving. The robots are capable of producing up to 100 pizzas per hour, significantly increasing productivity without sacrificing quality.
I wonder how
The
many
entire
pizzas a
process
human
is
can
controlled
make
by
in an
software
hour.
called Mike,
One human.
which handles scheduling, inventory management, quality control, and product tracking through sensors and computer vision systems. In addition to high-tech automation, Padzi places great emphasis on food quality.
And like these
A
are places that
three-time
are
world
open.
pizza champion Thierry Graffagnino has been involved in developing the recipes. As a result, the pizzas made by the robots are not only quick to prepare, but also taste excellent.
I don't know what else is here. I haven't actually watched this video.
The German startup Goodbites has introduced a robotic kitchen assistant that takes over all everyday cooking tasks. Powered by artificial intelligence, the robot can prepare up to 150 meals per hour, or 3,000 meals per day, increasing efficiency,
That's a lot
reducing
of volume.
labor costs,
Like that would easily
and expanding
handle
menu
a large
options through
campground,
advanced
right? Not
automation.
A mega, but a large one.
The platform allows users to create personalized cookbooks
maybe
with
a large,
signature
maybe a mega
dishes, enhance their
3,000
menu
meals?
portfolio
That's-
with AI-based recommendations, and scale their business through a virtual brand licensing platform. Kangxi Robot Catering Group has introduced a fully automated restaurant located in China, where all processes from cooking to serving are handled by robotic machines. The restaurant
This is probably
utilizes
wading
over
into
40
dangerous
robots that
territory,
can
but,
prepare
like,
and serve around
Why
200
do we
different
think
dishes,
that a lot of
including
this
traditional Chinese cuisine,
innovation
hot meals,
happens
and fast
in
food?
Asia versus here?
Orders are placed through
Not
robot
just China.
waiters using touch
It's in
screens.
Asia, like South Korea, Japan.
Once the food is ready,
Why do we think
it is
more
delivered to the
widely
table via a
adopted
special
over there?
Skyrail system or trays that
encouraged, or-
robots move around the dining
Because
area.
there's a lot of innovation here in the United
The
States.
robot
of course,
chefs are
and in
trained by
Canada.
imitating the
But why
actions
does
of
it tend to make
experienced
it to the
chefs
public quicker
and can
over
prepare
there?
up to 120 dishes per hour. The restaurant can serve up to 600 guests at a time, and its robotic system ensures a fast and hygienic experience,
Nobody wants to
minimizing
touch that.
human contact and reducing the risk of contamination.
I'm processing it.
Let us know in the comments if you would like to visit such a restaurant.
It's just hard to talk over that thing.
In the United States, a restaurant has also opened where robots prepare and serve the dishes. Artificial intelligence will control all processes from cooking to serving,
That's
and
what
customers
Lisa
can
just
watch
said.
the robot
Like
chef
the
Flippy
one in
2 in
the US
action.
has to be the deep fried
Customers
French
can
fries,
place
whereas
orders
it's
through an
health food in the
interactive
other one.
screen using widgets, then watch as robots grill hamburger patties, package fries, and pour drinks. Engineers from Miso Robotics, who created Flippy 2, believe it will be a kind of show for visitors. The robots are attached to special rails, simplifying and controlling their movements around the kitchen. Essentially, these are robotic arms capable of grabbing, moving, lifting, and lowering items. Tasks like grinding beef, forming patties, and adding sauces are handled by the AI system. During the first few days of operation, employees from a nearby fast food joint will oversee Flippy 2. If it performs well, it will be left to operate on its own.
Okay, that's probably enough, Lisa. Oh wait, what's this one? Wait a minute, is this a bartender? Oh,
Write in the
no.
comments which
It's
of
like
these robotic
cut
restaurants.
off. That looks like a bartender. That's the most interesting one. Anyway,
Now, that's where I'm going to draw the line.
bartenders?
Bartenders. Yep.
You don't want it to pour you a whiskey at night?
No, I don't. No, I absolutely do not.
Like in your house, right? Like if I want to go to a bar, then I for sure like the conversation sometimes I have with a bartender, right?
As a former bartender, what are the things about
Unbiased,
bartending
clear. We're clear. The data set's unbiased. Go ahead.
is that you there's some creativity involved. I'll tell you what we hated at one of the bars I worked at was the pre-measured shots. Like everything came out of this thing that was all pre-measured time after time. And the customers hated it. They hated the fact that it came out like that. They wanted to see you, the person, make that drink in front of them. It's performative. And that performative stuff, I don't think we could differ on this, but the average consumer, I don't think, wants to see a robot dance. It's like, who gives a shit? It's like...
Yeah, after the novelty wears off, I agree with you. And I also agree with you about the mixed drinks. For sure, humans. But for beer out of a tap or just straight vodka or something like that, like there's not a lot of creativity there.
No, there isn't. There isn't. But, you know, is that what you could probably do that with a mix of people, a mix between
right. You have a robot. Like, what if you have a robot on one end of the bar who's handling all the common drinks, and then you have more time to focus on your creativity as the bartender?
That, and you know, like in O'Hare Airport in Chicago, there's a vending machine for beer. So you know, that's probably one of the things. You know, that's kind of a similar approach. But yeah, then for your mixers, you want a live person to do it. I think to get back to your point of why things don't make it to the public as quickly here is essentially and again, everybody can disagree with me if they want on this. We have in this country a lot of Luddites, and we have people who immediately have a knee-jerk reaction that is to the negative when it comes to technology and some innovations like that, especially one where they may feel a little bit of a threat from it.
Okay.
So I think that's I think it's just part of our culture that is just is a little standoffish when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Where do you think that comes from? I know that's a loaded question, and you can refuse to answer it, and I'll pass, and I won't push you. Because I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously we all have ideas. I just didn't know if you had some data points on that or things you've studied or.
I think it's a fundamental lack of exposure.
Okay.
I think there are large segments of the population that just don't have that kind of exposure to it. They might not get much of it in school, and they might not. And then beyond that, there's, you kind of have to go seek it in many cases. So I think that's it. And we just don't. It's never been as integrated into our culture as it has in other countries.
I wonder if that's because it stopped though, like kind of, and what I mean by that is like, and this is just from my, like, I think I mentioned this on the show before. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, that For All Mankind show.
Yeah.
Like I think, like I really wonder, like the trajectory of what that would have happened had we like, and the whole premise of the show for the people who have never seen it, it's on Apple TV Plus, is what if the Russians had been the first people on the moon? Then there would have been a massive race and we would have been competing, and like we never would have, like, after we landed on the moon, we never would have like shut down the whole program and just sat around for 40 years and done right and fought and went to war and debated with each other and all the things. And so they just run up through the technology, and by like the late 1994, I think they ended up landing on Mars. This is probably spoilers for people. Sorry. I probably shouldn't say that, but just the amount of progress that had been made, and they don't really touch on what societal progress came as a result of that. But as we know, NASA's advancements have been the result of many technologies that we enjoy in our society. So you've got to believe that there was a ton of crossover there. But I wonder how that would have changed, because we often, like, well, we don't often, but I've talked about, I guess, and other people too, how we've kind of, like, we outsourced our inflation to China, and we helped kind of build their economy, or helped speed up. Like, I don't want it to be egotistical. I don't want it to sound like we're claiming credit for anything, right? But like we helped speed up the progress, I think, of their economy by X number of years by outsourcing our manufacturing, the 70s, 80s, or whatever we started, right? And then to present. But I wonder if that played a role in, like, they had to build all the new things and meet all the demand and do all the, and so they are, I don't want to say they're more innovative, but they have adopted that more quickly. Is that fair? That's also a very fine line that I'm walking, right? But, and maybe that's a consequence of what you're saying, right? Like, it's interesting to me too, how you have to, I feel like I have to walk that line more. Like here versus in like Asia when I traveled there. And obviously I'm not speaking for everybody. And I'm not saying that line's a bad thing, right? But I feel like sometimes I have to quantify or qualify what I'm saying and say, like, well, like, but I don't know, you guys have seen me say that, right? I don't want to upset too many people with just my opinion, which is not fact. But I feel like I have to qualify that more over here, whereas maybe I wouldn't over there. I don't know. Does that make sense? Nobody wants to touch that with a 10-foot pole?
Nope.
All
you, bro.
I mean, again, I'm not saying that it's wrong or right? And I really do believe that. I'm not just quantifying that statement and trying to, like, back my way out of something or whatever else. Like, it could be a good thing to be more cautious in certain circumstances, right? It could be a good thing to say, well, let's wait and see if something works. So there are benefits to it too. And admittedly, I'm on the obvious side of, like, well, I just want to see all the things change, but I'm very clearly in the minority of people who like change. So anyway, back to food. So yeah, I just think that I think those things unlock a lot of opportunities for campgrounds in the future. A little bit maybe it is a little bit expensive for $330,000 for that one, right? But if we're expecting, and I am, humanoid robots to come down to 30,000, I'm not saying you'll be able to order one in 3 years. Like, you will be able to order one, but the manufacturing capacity of them is gonna be such a bottleneck, partly because we outsource to China, partly because, we only make a certain amount of cars every year, right? So the bottleneck for you actually being able to order one that's not out of stock is gonna be a struggle in 3 years, and 5 years, and maybe even 10 years. But you'll be able to order one. So, it stands to reason that this stuff is easier to make, right? And easier to scale. So, I think a lot of campgrounders can take advantage of some of this stuff and keep those dollars at their park. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, it is as long as you can. I mean, they just need efficiencies, and Greg knows that better than anyone. At the campground level, that speed, turnaround, staffing. It'd be nice if you could go, have a nice private chef to, or even a short order cook to that was there all the time. But as I know, one of you mentioned that earlier too, it's kind of like the idea of running a restaurant. One, by definition, it's going to be seasonal. So a lot of the people in food service want more than seasonal. They want year round, and then you're gonna is your campground itself gonna be able to keep it going, without allowing outside people to come in and be guests there and so on. There's just all those factors. Thus, if you can keep if you can be, it seems like it's a pretty responsive. It's a one-time, it's essentially a one-time investment. I can see it actually, the application. One of the things I was thinking of is, I remember this, I forget what it was. It was a podcast. They talked about in India, they were challenged this group was challenged to get the cost of food for kids, school lunches, down to some absurd number, 29 cents a meal per day. And they did it. It was a long way of getting there. And as we were watching those videos, I was thinking of that actually, when they were talking about doing, 100 pizzas in an hour. And,
but then you can do it without sacrificing the quality of the food, which is how most people do it. Okay, let's take it down to 29 cents and save money. But just completely disregard all the studies that show this is going to cause cancer in our kids in 20 years. Right. Or whatever it is, right?
So yeah, you have, a system that can produce a lot in a short amount of time. It doesn't get fatigued. It doesn't, go out and for a smoke break. And it just
you might watch that. The cowboy who has the cigar in his mouth, the robot smoking cigar, cowboy wearing, that would be some entertainment, maybe. Probably wear off after 2 times still, but sorry, continue.
But anyway, no, that whole idea, in to come full circle on this is, the food stuff is important to campers. Food, and anyone who's gone camping knows food is part of the obsession when you go camping. Whether it's you're preparing your own, or you're, for example, when people come out here to Maine, they go camping near Acadia in Bar Harbor area, and they, half the people will go to a local restaurant. They have these lobster pounds they go to, and you can get a box with a lobster and corn and potatoes, or a lot of people bring them back to their campsite and they have a lobster boil at their campsites. It's part of the experience when you're here, and that's everywhere you go in Bar Harbor. There's places to get these live lobsters and so on. So that's part of that camping experience, and it's big, and that's what people want. And so, again, to dovetail with that, a lot of people just don't want to cook themselves. They just really don't. And if you notice in that graphic we were looking at earlier, the average spend per day is
directly related. I can put it up again. Go ahead. Sorry.
So you can see that, Gen Z millennials spend a lot more per day. That's that food factor right there with that group. Both of those groups are much more into the food. They go on food tourism. They consider themselves foodies. They like local foods, and they're spending that's what they're spending the money on. The Gen X and the boomers, they cook at the campsite. They build the campfire or whatever, and that's part of the camping culture with the older generations, especially. Is you go camping, you cook it there at the campsite. It's part of that experience.
Yeah.
And so, those are directly related to that. The Gen Zers and millennials too, they spend a little bit more. They're much more likely to look at entertainment and stuff like that as well. So that's driving that spend. But again, it's kind of like having clean bathrooms. Food, you have to figure out the food thing as well. Those two factors are huge to campers, and again, especially, it just seems to be growing every year.
And to the revenue you can earn too. Like I'll play devil's advocate against what my own opinion, right? Because there's a flip negative side to this too, right? Is as this gets more widely adopted, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, right? Where like there's a saturation point of where the robotic arms or cooks or humanoids are not novel anymore, right? Then other than the people who like have the gimmicks for first timers in tourism areas, like the cigar smoking one or the dancing one or whatever, right? That attracts the person, like the Rainforest Cafe, right? Other than that, then it stands to reason that there's going to be a lot of really good food, a lot of places, and that everybody's going to have a lot of the same thing, right? You'll be able to go and menus will be 3,000 items. Just say whatever you want, and chances are we can make it. So then how do you set yourself apart? Why are they eating at the campground versus local? I think almost in some cases that might flip people back to the human experiences of the difference, like of the bar who makes the local craft beer that you can't get anywhere else, right? That you can't get, like a robot's not going to do that. Or maybe there's instances where you can license that from local breweries, and then they only cap it at a certain amount of licenses, so you have to come to your campground to get a craft beer from somewhere. But I think that can work in the reverse too, when it's too much of a familiarity and too much of a, like we talk about, everybody has miniature golf courses, everybody has pools. Like this is going to work really well for a while, but then on the flip side of it, I don't know, playing devil cat. Can I argue with myself? Is that a thing on the show?
Sure.
Do it. Break new ground.
Anyway, so go ahead. Let's dig through some more data.
Okay, so the other side to all this is kind of what happens. So we're going to move forward with the basic understanding that campers spend a decent amount of money outside of paying for their campsite, for their lodging, and this isn't like gas and that kind of stuff. This is mostly food and entertainment costs. So it's a substantial amount of money. So we'll just leave it there because it is however you define that. Now, when you look at how people adjust.
Next slide or no?
Yeah, you can go to the next slide. That when economic conditions change, that they adjust to it, and you can kind of see here that there people are who said they're going to spend more. Is a decent amount, and that again, going to your earlier point, Brian, when they say that, it could be a little bit due to inflation. It probably is to a degree.
And when was this taken? Just because we were talking about consumer sentiment, consumer confidence. When was this taken?
This was, well, you can see the March figure there.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So it's you got a quarter of people are going to spend more, but then that figure, spend less is more and less. They're kind of on balance.
Boy, that's quite the change in 2 months. I wonder. Well, man, it would be fascinating to see what it is now.
It would be.
Toby, we need you.
Yeah. We're actually going to go back out with the new survey, I think. Maybe sometime this month. We'll definitely ask this again.
Because that's like so our spend more category for the people on the podcast went from 49% in January to 43% in March. Right? No. Sorry, 25 to 22 for spend more. 25% to spend more in January, 22% in March. Spend the same went from 49% in January to 43% in March. Spend less went from 13% who were going to spend less to doubling at 26% in 2 months.
That's the big one.
That's the big one right there.
Yeah.
And so when you think about local impact, we were just talking about how much impact that spend can have on a local community. Here it is, right here. This is what happens, when consumer confidence dips, and when people, view the economy through a negative lens. It's they cut back on their spending, and these are people. So there you can say that, well, the people who spent more, maybe they're going to buy the same things, but they're going to spend more because of inflation. That's fine, because they're still spending that money in the local economies. But then when you double the percentage who are going to spend less, then now you're talking, a real impact.
So what's the US and Canada on the right, though? Because they don't have January or March. Are they amalgamations? Because they can't be, because the spend more is 25% in January, 22% in March, but 26% overall in the US. So where's the US number?
The US number, that was the that's just, actually those are combined from March, I believe. No, yes, yep, those are the combined numbers from March. So
how do you get to 26% in the US is what I'm asking. I'm clearly just stupid and missing it, but how do you go from 25 in January to 22 in March to 26 overall across the US is what I'm trying to figure out. Like, I must be missing something. I'm sure I am, right? But
then let's just focus on the overall January and March, because it's the easiest way to approach it.
So you don't have an answer, so you're like, shut up, Brian. Okay. All right. That's fair. I mean, I'm sure to be clear, there's clearly good data behind it somewhere. We're just not understanding it. We don't know right now. But go ahead.
Right. So essentially what you have is the by the way, the January and March figures are the amalgamation of the US and Canada for both of those months. The US and Canada figures are the combined figures for March when you see those two. Yeah. Yeah. So you have 24 and 31. Yeah, that's how that's being presented. Sometimes they present the data differently than I give it to them. That's why I struggle with that a little bit.
No, it's okay. Like, I was just trying to do the math problem in my head, but we can move on. Let's go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, there you have that intent. That's probably one of the better, it gives you some insight into the mindset of campers out there heading into March. It's like they're like, yeah, we're probably going to spend less. So if you kind of go to the next page of results, or camping affordability, we don't need to look at camping affordability. We just to understand that people do see camping as a fairly affordable way to travel. And that makes sense. You spend less overall. It's like
it is interesting though. Like, has that number, and maybe I could just go down and look at it, but I'll just ask you, since you said we could skip over it. Is that number changed with the people who think it's affordable based on the fact that we've seen a lot of places raise a lot of prices since 2020, and luxury RV resorts be built that charge a whole lot more? Has the affordability equation changed at all?
It has a bit over the last few years. It has. It used to be quite a bit higher. But as the prices, the cost per night has increased, we've seen some erosion in that figure. But still, comparatively speaking, to other,
it's cheap still, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that again, that is why it's still fairly popular, because you can, again, a family can still go out camping relatively cheaply if they work at it a little bit.
But camping, like, we're averaging out all types of camping again, to be clear, right?
Right.
By saying cheaply. Did we break down what the average price per night is anywhere of a private campground versus or did we not want to see that?
We didn't do it in this study. Greg probably knows that.
Greg?
More than I do.
I don't. That's a really good question. Like a nationwide average.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen stuff, in market studies that I've done for parks in certain areas but no, not nationwide. That would be an interesting.
Well, because to me, it begs the question, right? Like we're all saying that, like, and let's go down and look at this chart and see it real quick. Like, right? We're saying like camping is, the most cost-effective way to travel. Like, just tell me, shout out if I'm saying something wrong here, Scott. 72% of people say camping is the most cost-effective way to travel. And that's the one we'll just home in on here for a second, right? But what is that? What is the difference between that number of affordability? Camping is affordable overall for people who stay at BLM land or Harvest House or Hip Camp or in Walmart parking lots versus how many people say it's affordable at the private campgrounds that have stereotypically, but not always, raised their rates quite a bit in the last couple of years. I bet you it's pretty different.
And that's actually something that we could look at because we can identify those folks.
Like, again, I'm sure to your point, it's still cheaper than most other vacations. So it's still affordable, but it would be interesting to see, because you see all the data in the Facebook groups and the campers Facebook groups. This is so expensive. This is ridiculous. I never would pay for this for RV site like a couple years ago, right? And it's not everybody, but there's a lot of complainers out there who are more vocal and more seen. But like, I would be interested in that number, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's. I think it's obviously gonna differ. But also keep in mind that what a lot of people do is they mix it up. They mix up their types of stays they have to kind of offset that, because they know, especially it's the newbies that have the biggest problem with that, but the experienced people know how to mix it up. They know how to balance some stays at private campgrounds along with some dispersed or boondocking trips to save a few bucks on those overnight stays, which just knowing that there are free or less expensive options kind of feeds into that attitude, that idea that it is an affordable option. Because again, if people know that they can do that as a fallback.
We'll just let that run. We don't have to pay attention to it now. We can we'll come back to it. But okay, where are we going for the data now? Back up. We said we were going up to the top right here. Did we cover this?
Yeah, just we can the camping outlook again. This measure was from January, so again it was a little bit more favorable than it was last year. But people in general were kind of fairly optimistic about the upcoming year. Like that, take more trips and more nights figure is pretty substantial. That again has changed a little bit, but
so we would think, like, we would guess that we'll stay at a lower priced campground is probably higher. Fewer trips and fewer nights is probably higher.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't know if take longer trips would have changed. Take more frequent trips might have changed. I don't know, all of it changed, right? But like, we would think it would be just skewed more toward than spend less overall, right?
Right.
Okay. I've got you a price if you want it.
What did you use to get a price?
I have my methods.
Well, I'm sharing my methods.
This is a national data set that I pay for licensing to. So out of 13,317 RV parks in the United States, and a total of basically 1.2 million campsites, average price per night is $56.55.
Just private parks.
Yes, I believe
there's 13,000 private parks.
These may actually include.
I think those include state parks.
Let me take a look. The dog agrees.
I don't know what she's doing. I'll check my doorbell camera.
That I'm not certain of.
Okay, so anyway, let's fit 56. Okay, I could believe that. That's why
56, 55 a night. Yeah,
like I could believe that, but I feel like, what do you think, Scott? Do you think that probably, like, the number 13,000 has to include public camping sites, right?
I think it does.
That's parks. Yeah, RV parks. I don't think that doesn't include anything for glamping. This is just RV camping. Roughly 13,000 parks, 1.2 million sites.
Okay. But like there's a lot of sites without all the amenities and the hookups and the things that are in state parks that could be like 30 or 40 or right. So that would drag down that average.
Yeah, and think about the thousands or maybe tens of thousands of dispersed camping sites and BLM lands where it's all just free, show up, and if it's available, you take it. That would drag that average way down, right? But yeah, RV parks.
Okay. We can wait on this, Scott. Like, well, it'll get there. But where do you want to go?
So, just kind of going back to the economic uncertainty thing. That's kind of that that's kind of a sentiment score. It's like, does economic uncertainty impact your travel plans? So you have a large block of people who say yes. So anytime there's uncertainty, and this speaks to what we've been hearing for the last however many weeks or months, whatever we're at now, is that like with the stock market hates uncertainty. Well, the average consumer does too. It's like if they know what's going on, they know what's going to happen, they can plan and adjust. But they really don't like if it just feels uncertain to them. So that, again, that's important, just to kind of understand that when people feel that tension, they're going to make adjustments, and their adjustments tend to surround what we've been talking about, the food and entertainment first and foremost.
But how quickly, right, is the question in my mind. And so we talked about this before. We don't need to delve into it too deep, but like, how quickly is it a lagging indicator? Like we, I talk about, I think AI and robots is going to cause layoffs. It's starting, but it's not huge noticeable numbers, right? Everybody would be panicking if that was the case. But it's big numbers. Like UPS the other day was 20,000 people. It was going to, not because of AI and robotics, but like 20,000 people because of the tariffs, or I think it was decreased orders from Amazon, but I think a direct consequence of the tariffs, right? But like how much, it would be interesting also to understand the psychology of the consumer that's impacted by obviously way more if you're laid off versus like how much does it impact the consumer and what they're willing to spend if their neighbor or their buddy or their family member's laid off, if they just know somebody tangentially who's been laid off. Because that number like scales much quicker, even with smaller layoffs, right? If you just know somebody, third to the fourth order or whatever. It would be interesting to see how much that impacts like the numbers and consumer sentiment or spending or whatever overall.
Oh, anyway. Sure. If people can personalize it, the immediacy is going to increase, in terms of. But where it impacts people is at that decision nexus, which is when are they making their plans? And if a person feels like things are uncertain and they don't see that it's going to change in the near future, it's going to impact them as they make their plans for this summer, in this case.
Which is bad for us, right? So if we go back to what Burnout Bob said, right? The difference between the two things is like the consumer confidence says that they like people are clutching their wallets, might cancel, but consumer sentiment is the lagging indicator, right? Or no, consumer confidence is a lagging indicator. Consumer sentiment comes first, generally speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if consumer sentiment is like, well, I might wait a little bit, right? They might. Is that fair? Like they might wait to book if consumer sentiment is there, but they might still book. Whereas consumer confidence is they might cancel. So if they're waiting because of consumer sentiment and consumer confidence is a lagging indicator, is that more likely that they'll, like if we continue down the same trajectory that is projected, isn't that worse news for if they had already booked in advance and planned their trip? Does that make sense?
I think if they've already booked,
then they're in better shape, right? But if they're waiting to book because consumer sentiment is low and it might turn around and it might whatever, but consumer confidence is a lagging indicator, by the time they get to their shortened booking window where they're like, I've got to make a decision, consumer confidence could be lower, which makes them end up booking less trips.
Correct. Also, even if the things say things just stay constant. Whenever someone delays their plans, there's a decent chance that it won't happen. Like we did.
There's a reason they delayed it, and they're second guessing themselves in some form or fashion.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. They, some people will tell you, well, I'm waiting until the fall. I'm going to go on my trip in the fall instead of July. There's a really good chance that fall trip will never happen. And that's why these things have such an impact. And these are lagging indicators, because they think that they might still be able to go, but the more that those sentiments erode, and the more, and without any kind of relief in sight, you're increasing the likelihood that these trips are never going to happen. Boy, I'm sounding awful negative today.
Yeah, this is going down a negative rabbit hole.
I mean, our goal here is to set and again, everything that you hear, whether it comes from us or the government or anybody, right, always has a slant of a perception that you're listening to that through. Everything I say has a slant and a perception that you're listening that through, right? Whether I realize it or not, or intended or not, like I have my own opinions that are technically an agenda that are right. It's not necessarily malicious, but everything you hear is coming through that lens. So just take that into account with whoever you're listening to.
And this, for me, from my perspective, it has mostly to do with, for example, just assume, things are great. Everything great. And you do a survey and you ask people, how likely are you to go camping this year? And you give them, the 5-point scale. And so if 80% of the people say somewhat or very likely, what everyone's going to say is, look, 80% of these people said they're going camping this year. That's great. Well, then here I come in to throw cold water on that. And that is, how many people said they're very likely versus how many people said somewhat? That somewhat group is soft. We just know that from years and years of experience, that even though people will say it's at the high end, it's still soft. The very likely group is most of those people will go. That somewhat group, you could probably say your attrition rate will be maybe a third of that group won't. Just again, because it's a soft measure. So that's all, and that's where a lot of that comes from. When is that people's intentions are always they're always much higher than the follow through. So, and that's fine. We see that, like I said, we see that in the best of years. So you have to kind of you take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt, and the idea that everyone out there is trying to make the best decision they can for their travel plans. And if there's negativity, we see again how they adjust. They spend less money in local areas. They're more likely to look for dispersed camping. They're more likely to stay closer to home. All those things. The staying closer to home one is one I don't mind as much, because that's they're spending money in their own community, really, or
local. Yep.
So that one I kind of like. I like when people say that when I'm cool with that. But again, these kinds of things can have a far-reaching effect. The key is, honestly, we just got to make sure we get more people out there camping, because we can kind of offset a little bit of that if we can increase our participation. And that's kind of the positive side of this, is that we just need to get more people out there, convince them that camping is an affordable option. So if we get 10% more campers because of, in a bad economy, they see it as affordable, that will offset some of that, the stuff, the lower amounts of spending and so on.
Scott Spreadsheet of Sorrow Bahr. He's over there in the corner with his graphs and charts, probably wearing a Reality Matters shirt while you're out here trying to run a campground built on dreams, duct tape, and flaming marshmallow vibes. Scott's like, the data suggests we're down 2.3% in weekend occupancy. And I'm like, cool story, Scott. But last night we had a raccoon do karaoke and 3 guests cried from joy. Listen, Scott's not wrong. He's just dangerously right in the most inconvenient way. And every campground needs a data goblin like him to remind us we can't buy another fog machine, track guests, which guests might actually return after a mystery goo night, and warn us that 97% of our glampers are lactose intolerant, but we serve nothing but cheese. I wonder how many people are lactose intolerant. Can't be that many, right? So here's how we deal with, I guess, Data Debbie or Scott. Which do you prefer, Scott? We'll go with Scott. Rename the charts. Occupancy trends becomes the mood of the moon people. Revenue decline becomes the curse of the ice machine, part 3. Make a fun zone column in the report. Next to every data point, add a column titled, Did Joy Happen Anyway? Answer yes, a goat hugged someone. That's revenue adjacent, Scott. You got that?
Got it.
Revenue adjacent. I like it. And goats hugging someone, like, that's important stuff.
Goat yoga.
Send him into the wild. Give Scott a clipboard and tell him to interview trees. Claim it's guest sentiment collection. Forest bathing.
There it is, baby.
He'll come back confused, possibly enlightened, and way less downery. Is downery a word? I don't mind that word. Give him a campground title. Change his job from data analyst to minister of morale metrics and snack ratios. Boom. It now sounds like he's running a festival, not a spreadsheet gulag. And if you still start sentences with, unfortunately, the numbers say, you interrupt with, yeah, well, the stars say I'm thriving, Scott. Run the tarot on those numbers. Want me to write a fake press release introducing Scott as Supreme Chancellor of Negative Vibes Prevention? I'll do it. Let's save Scott from himself. And there's an image of you, Scott.
Oh, wow. I do look like a downer. What happened to my hair?
I don't know.
My hair's gone. Someone stole my hair. AI stole my hair.
Your hair and your joy. It's all gone.
Like, this is like cavity prevention. We're trying to save you from losing your hair. So this is what you will look like unless you turn it around for us on the show, buddy.
So, you know, I have a t-shirt that I have 2 t-shirts actually that I bought from kind of a data geek organization. One simply says correlation is not causation. And the other one says, you have opinions, I have data, I win. So I'm just, and I was looking at that picture makes me sad. Now I feel sad.
Just looking at it is depressing.
It is. It really is.
For those of you not watching, be happy that you're not watching. That's very sad.
Burnout Bob's talking back to you, so I'm gonna get back to the data in a second. But like I said, Scott said you have opinions and he has data, so he wins. And Burnout Bob said, "Oh no, he didn't." Scott just walked into his virtual campground with a clipboard full of facts and tried to flex on Burnout Bob, the man who once held a raccoon wedding during a lightning storm and called it branding. Listen here, data daddy. You may have spreadsheets, but I have a 5-gallon jug of opinions, duct tape logic, and a haunted s'mores recipe passed down by screaming wind spirits. Yeah, Scott's got graphs, but I've got the emotional chaos of 1,200 campers trying to roast hot dogs with novelty lightsabers, the real-time analytics of kids turning a kayak into a pirate ship while their parents drink boxed wine, and the soul-shattering truth that vibes always beat math when it comes to campgrounds. And guess what? Campers don't say, wow, that site had excellent ROI per square foot. They say, remember when Larry cooked bacon on a shovel and proposed it to a pine cone? That was the best trip of my life. Scott may win with charts, but I win with hearts. So tell Mr. Numbers over there to loosen up, grab a kazoo, and let me tape a raccoon to his bar craft. We're building memories, not just margins. You hear that, Scott? This campground runs on chaos and love. And okay, some data, but we keep it in a drawer behind the marshmallows. Do we want him to make a meme about this? Yeah.
I think Scott I think there's a good way for you to flip that line there about you win with charts and not hearts, Scott. I think there's a line there you could use in your presentations.
I think you use it the other tagline, like just flip it.
I think if you flip it the other way.
We win with charts, not hearts.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's solid.
I don't know what this meme is going to look like, but after that, we can get back to data and talking about important things. What do we think this thing's going to spin out for? It's making a meme, is what it said. Want me to make a meme about this? Because I will. This could really go in any direction, right?
Let's hope it's not as depressing as the last guy.
Yeah.
Well, I'll talk while this is happening because Maybe I don't. I don't know. Now I'm
Now you're unfocused, aren't you?
You have data, but I have opinions. Kind of starting to look like Hunter S. Thompson.
It is a little bit. I was thinking the very same thing. I think this is yet another. This is a great slide in one of your presentations when you get to a point where, you know, nobody likes this data, and you're thinking right now, folks. Okay, Scott, you have data, but I have opinions.
It would be really good at a presentation. That means I win.
Yeah. I could use that, and then I could unveil my T-shirt that says, "Yeah, well, here you go."
I'm gonna post this on LinkedIn tomorrow. If I remember. I'll tag you, Scott.
Do it, please. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, kind of the whole. That's kind of all the data from the report that we have on the economic stuff. We've been measuring economic impact for quite a while. Like, how does the economy impact camping? How does it impact attitudes and behavior, as you know, well as actual spending? And you know, the bottom line conclusion that I would kind of put a bow on this issue with is that, generally speaking, in a down economy, if the economy is just down a little bit, maybe camping increases. A lot more people go camping.
Yeah,
they're going to make some adjustments, but not major adjustments. So say that you're in, you know, a quote normal situation where maybe, you know, the consumer price index rose a little bit and people are like, it's a little off, but they're still going to go camping. They're still going to go camping, maybe more. They may take, you know, an extra camping trip or stay an extra day instead of going and staying at a hotel or resort. We've known that. That's been the trade-off for years. What happens here in the situation we're in currently is a little different because we have the double impact of the potential, as mentioned earlier, the whole idea that potentially a recession in the future, the kind of negative tone that we have overall as a country, our relationship with Canada, our European visitors don't want to come here. A lot of people understand that travel tourism has taken a hit. It's putting a dark cloud over things right now. And the one thing there's a couple things we can really hope for. One, people still want to travel. They always want to travel. And again, if you have an affordable option, that's what they're going to take. They're much more likely to take that affordable option. And camping is accessible for people of all income categories, whereas other forms of travel are not necessarily that accessible. So we may see at the end of this year, we may see a larger group of people come in who are from lower income categories than in the past. We may see them spend a little bit less. I do believe that we'll see people staying a lot closer to home. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think park visitation will be down a little bit, but I think state parks are going to benefit greatly. So that's kind of the situation. To me, that's the economy. That's based on a few years of measuring some of this stuff and just trying to roll it all up into one somewhat more optimistic viewpoint.
Well, you can narrow everybody down into two groups, as we determined last week, right? Are people still going to go camping when the economy is down? Fuck y'all says, yep. Nothing says financial crisis like pooping in the woods and pretending it's a getaway. Luxury on a budget, baby. And fuck yeah says, totally. Camping's the OG staycation. Cheap thrills, fresh air, and stargazing that's 100% inflation proof. Let's pitch those tents and ditch the debt.
All right. There we go. See?
We're going to stereotype everything into two groups from now on.
All right. I'm going to say, where's that somewhat likely? Which one of those is the soft group there, Scott? Is it the fuck y'all or fuck yeah?
There is no middle ground, apparently. So
none.
We could ask, like, if there was a middle ground, I don't know if this will work, between both of you, what would it be called?
Fucking maybe? A little upward inflection.
Probably fine, whatever. Fuck y'all says probably fine, whatever. Just enough energy to care, not enough to be annoying. Basically lukewarm tap water. Ooh, maybe, heck maybe. Like cautiously pumped. Half high five, half eyebrow raise. I'm into it.
Heck maybe. I don't know why I kind of like that. It's the most milquetoast secret slogan I could ever think of.
Fuck yeah, so call it meh be. Sounds like a shrug in word form, perfect for people who commit like wet spaghetti. And fuck yeah says, oh my God, yes. Camp kinda. It's got vibes. It's got mystery. Are we in or are we out? Who knows? But we brought snacks. I like that. All right. Where are we going to go next? Like we talk a little bit about SEO. We only have a few minutes left, but do we want to talk about SEO or do you guys have something else you want to talk about? Like I'm kind of non-committal. I could do either way. So
Then let's do it.
Talk about SEO.
Sure.
Like I think, I mean, I think we like, so we talked about this. We talked about this and maybe, was it the first episode or the second episode where we talked about the intro to AI or whatever, maybe the second episode. So we talked a little bit about how consumer discovery is changing and all that jazz, and we're not going to go back into that in detail. But how you've got to pay attention to, and new numbers are pretty staggering. So 650 million monthly active users of ChatGPT now. And that's up 100 million, I think, over the last couple months.
That's individual users.
Yeah, right? 650 million monthly active users.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what active means, whether that's 1 day, 2 day, 5 days, 10 days, but it's active users per month. And then as part of the antitrust trial that Google's going through for its monopoly, they had to disclose Gemini. So Gemini is 350 million monthly active users of Gemini. We don't know Claude or we don't know the other AI systems, right? But that's
you don't know how many people are using both. That could be a user on both platforms,
could
right?
be an overlap. Yeah, could be an overlap. Like, but then there's, according to Google, there is, and who knows how they count users, there are 1.5 billion users of AI overviews. I don't know how you determine that. I would guess that with the volume of searches in the high, I think 90 billions a day on Google, one would imagine that an active user of AI overviews is somebody who clicked it, something like that. I don't know. So people who are tangentially aware, at least, of AI overviews who have interacted with them in some fashion is my guess. But that's what Google says, 1.5 billion active users. In the last week, 1 billion searches on ChatGPT. Not prompts, not conversations, like searches of ChatGPT search. Their Google alternative, 1 billion in the last week. Now that's a far cry from the 90 billion searches that Google gets a day, but also Google's fucking with that, and we're never going to know. And in the AI overviews of Google, like they've been shown in studies in their own AI overviews to link where you click it to another thing that opens another search that triggers another AI overviews in Google, which is for sure artificially inflating their numbers. And anything you say about the number of searches in Google now is completely just whatever. So that's a lot of people who are using AI, and a lot of people are using it for search. So these things like, and then the one thing that we hung our hat on, like the one thing you could always hang your hat on, whether it was me or it was somebody else, was we talked about it earlier, like the lack of willingness on the consumer to change, right? Mm-hmm. Like everybody's slow to change. And so we always, even I always assumed like, all right, like I think voice is going to take over, and when voice takes over, you're going to naturally change how you talk to the Alexa because you're going to talk in long words. But on the computer and a search engine, or a conversation engine, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, 25 years you've been putting in RV park near Dallas, you're going to do the same thing in ChatGPT, right? That's going to take a long time for most people to change their behavior. But now ChatGPT has come out and said, so have you guys heard about the memory feature? Like they had the memory feature a little bit in ChatGPT, where I think it's on by default. If you're a pro subscriber, you can turn it off, where it would remember certain things about your conversations. Now their upgraded memory takes into account all of your past conversations and personalizes everything it says to you. First off, the amount of data that they're going to have about you and know about you, you thought Google had a lot. You thought Facebook had a lot. Yeah. So that's number one. But number two is they're going to then use that personalization now to rewrite your search queries in real time on the back end So if you type RV park, and I did an exercise in this, I don't know if this is actually up here. It was a, let's see, Wall Street GDP readers, backers, PD3, memory with search queries. Yeah. Like I knew the answer to this, but I wanted to put this in a client digestible thing. So this is the article. Search Engine Land wrote this for clarity for people who are listening and who just want some more details. ChatGPT releases memory with search. ChatGPT search can now rewrite your prompts based on the memories you've saved and the insights from your past chat history. So ChatGPT can now personalize searches using your memory. Memory with search is a new addition to ChatGPT search and was quietly added as an update in its change log. What is it? ChatGPT said it can, quote, use memories to inform search queries when ChatGPT searches, or why did we go off the thing, Lisa? Why did we go off my little thing? Well, yeah, but like people can still see it, right? If they want to read along, I don't know. ChatGPT said it can use memories to inform search queries when ChatGPT searches the web using their third party or their party search providers. Not a lot of detail there, but its ChatGPT search page offers more information. If you have memory enabled when ChatGPT search rewrites your prompt into a search query, it may also leverage relevant information from memories to make the query better and more useful. For example, if the user has memory turned on and asks ChatGPT, what are some restaurants near me that I'd like, and has memories that the user is vegan and lives in San Francisco, then ChatGPT may rewrite the user's prompt to good vegan restaurants, San Francisco. You can learn more here about memory, including how to disable it or control individual memories. So, okay, so with all that. So then I ask it, knowing the answer, right? This is kind of like voice text gibberish, but just generally, basically, this says like we often hear from clients they want to target specific keywords and search, like RV park near Dallas or campground near Dallas or whatever else, right? You usually want to hear the clients and they want to go after the big keywords, right? I don't care if I'm in a suburb of Dallas. I want all the people who are in Dallas, right? Whether it's realistic that they're going to come to you 30 miles, 50 miles away or not, they want to go after those words. And so I said, keeping that in mind, is it possible with something like this that it would completely change and rewrite people's queries to make them better? Obviously, but also almost like users who don't know how to search because they've been trained on Google to speak in incomplete sentences, like RV Park Dallas. But in theory, this could take it and rewrite it based on their location or where they live or where they visited before in Dallas, and even change it to a smaller nearby outskirt suburb city or anything, right? And then I gave it the article. I used O3. Said, yes, memory with search lets ChatGPT silently run a terse, ill-formed prompt, e.g. RV Park Dallas, into a much richer, personalized search query like pet-friendly RV parks near Grapevine, Texas. By injecting what it already knows about the user, that means the string the user types and the string the search engine actually sees can be very different. So, like, if you think about where we're extrapolating this out, right? Like, I mean, we always assume that people would do the same thing in ChatGPT, RV park near Dallas. But now they can still do that same thing without changing their behavior, and ChatGPT will rewrite it based on their entire conversation history, which means forget about keyword targeting. What are you going to target? What keywords are you going to stuff on your website that you think are going to be relevant to the 2 billion different ways that somebody could say something based on the personalization of their AI history? And if you don't think Google's going to do this, like for sure Google will do this to make better search results for people, because their goal is to serve the user, right? And to, like, obviously make money. But their goal is to give people better answers. So if they can give people better answers, for sure this is going to happen.
So now it's not just the data they have. You mentioned before, like, oh, if you think they have data about you now, which they do, right? They know that Brian is this age and he lives here and he's got a dog and but now they know, because if you're using GPT, or even if you're not, I guess if you have the memory on, I'm just thinking like now they know
fucking everything, man.
They know how you feel
and how you think and how you word and how you
and that's a big difference, right? I mean, to not just know Greg's a white male, he's 51 years old, he lives in Northeast Ohio, big deal. All right, that gives them some things, and he's interested in boating and whatever, who knows what, right? But now they know how I feel about those things. That changes. That's a game changer.
Like fucking imagine what was the imagine this data in a Cambridge Analytica situation with, you remember Cambridge Analytica?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for clarity, like the data firm that may or may not have helped Trump get elected will straddle the line there the first time. Again, not that they did anything wrong. I mean, they did, like, opinion-wise, do a lot of shit wrong. They didn't do anything that Trump wasn't allowed to do, that the Democrats couldn't have also done, right? But like, they harvested a bunch of data from Facebook and everywhere else about your behaviors and credit card spend and all the things, which, like, by any objective estimation, impacted the election significantly. To whether you like that or not, we're not saying that. Nobody's talking about that, right? But it did. And now, like, imagine that data. And I'm not saying OpenAI is doing this. I'm not saying they will, they won't. Nobody's talking about any of that, right? But they have the potential to do that. And if you can now sell data to people that can target you based on how you're feeling or how angry you are, or whether you talked about Trump or Biden or whoever's in the future X number of times, whether you type their name in all caps, what are the words that you said surrounding them, we're kind of fucked from a manipulation standpoint as a society. And you got to believe they're going to sell some form of this data. Like, they have to, right? They don't have to. But, like, you better.
But they will.
They will.
Yeah.
For sure they will.
Of course.
Right? And it doesn't mean it's the raw data, and there's going to be some safeguards around it, probably, of course. And legal, like, they'll have to pass laws at some point around it. But, like, what happens until they pass the laws? It took them 12 years to start to catch up to Facebook, right?
Yep.
This goes back to the whole, like, again, we're talking like controversy, right? Like, how do you have a functioning democracy when a Russian bot, we're not picking on the Russians, but we're just, like, this is the conversation, right? Obviously, there are American bots, and there are Chinese bots, and there are Canadian bots, and there are whatever, right? Everybody's got their own agenda. But Russians are the stereotype, so we'll say Russian bot because we're in America. Well, you guys are in America, sorry. But, like, how does your democracy function when a Russian bot could, in theory, very easily pretend to be a guy that you, or a girl or a woman that you meet on social media, and you chat with them and you build a relationship with them for 7-8 months prior to an election? And they talk to you about everything except politics, and they become your best buddy, and you're sharing conversations and history and details with them and all the things. And then, like, a couple weeks before the election, boy, they have a lot of influence over what they say about who you should vote for after they build a relationship for 7 or 8 months. So when there are tens of thousands or millions of those bots out there talking to people who arguably and objectively and truthfully have no idea that this technology is where it is right now and won't for a long time, how do you have a functioning democracy then? Like, it's an honest question, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
The level
But more
of
importantly,
is incredible. Yeah.
More importantly, how do people harness this to keep people coming to their campgrounds? So you need to find a way to create your own bots, send them out into social media, become friends for 7 or 8 months before camping season. Yeah. And then start saying, the Glacier KOA
great new park. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Like, you need to be going to the Glacier KOA. And all of a sudden, occupancy is going like this. Or like this, depending on I don't know if I'm mirrored or what.
Well, you bring up a good point. Like, what is the ethical gray line there, right? Like, what is so we played that influencer video a few episodes ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the ethical gray line between what you use and what you're willing to deploy at your campground? Because, like, we can sit there and say, like, and I would never do this. I would never deploy. I would never allow or create a video, like a fake influencer, for a client unless they were 100% transparent that it was AI. But that's me. Like, they can very easily sign up to the website and for $45 create it on their own. So what's the line? We all like to think that our industry has this line that most people won't cross. But then remember, like, all the clients we talk to who will buy lists of 50,000 people who never signed up and spam email them.
Yep.
It's the same thing.
Yes.
It's the same fucking thing, guys. So, like, what is the line when you cross that? is there a line? How gray does it get? I'm sure the line gets pushed out further the more this technology comes into play, right? So like we talked about, like we hypothesized about this with, and we do shoot the shit with all kinds of people, right? Like we hypothesized with this about somebody who is interested in buying parks, right? And you call the people who like don't want to sell your park. Well, like what if you spin up 3 or 4 different bots that are consistent and you call the park and you say like, hey, I want to buy your park, and like over and over again, right? Until you get it, like, I want to offer you this much money. And then another bot calls in a different voice at a different time of day, talking about a different approach, and says, I want to offer you this much money. And they're all undercutting the price. Campground's worth $5 million. They're like, I'll offer you 3. Fuck you. I'll offer you 3.5. Fuck you. I'll offer you 4.5. Just don't know, right? Or whatever. Like, and then somebody calls and is like, after 6 months of hearing that back and forth from AI robots, a real person who has real money calls and says like, I'll give you 4.75. Now you just got a steal on a campground that was worth 5.5 because somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not hard to imagine.
No, it's not. Pretty easy to do even right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we're not doing this. And you have no reason to trust me, right? But like, we're not.
You just told us how you're doing it, Brian.
I mean, but these are the things like we try to think of, because these are the things that people will deploy against you.
Absolutely.
I mean, look how easy it is right now to like, even the simplest thing, like canceling reservations or messing with people's reservations. Like, what is the real, because we were talking about this when we're dealing with our AI chatbots, right? Like, how do we gatekeep, like, so nobody can fuck with your reservation? Because we want people to be able to go to the chatbot and say like, hey, what was my reservation for, or whatever else.
Right.
And the gate thing right now is kind of your email address, but that's super easy to get.
Yeah.
And like,
never thought of that.
And now it's not scalable, right? Because you can't call every campground or even in a radius and be like, does this person have reservations here? Here's my email address. But you sure as fuck could do that with AI and go mess with, like, just go cancel somebody's reservation. All you need is their email address. You don't even sound like that. The campground doesn't even know what they sound like. So again, like, not saying that that's something worth spending your time on, but like all these things are in play. But anyway, back to SEO. Like this stuff is changing really fast. And then ChatGPT the other day introduced shopping. So I forget, let me see if I can find an article on it. ChatGPT. There's too much stuff I read. We'll read like a news article instead of theirs. So Wired. OpenAI is shopping to ChatGPT in a challenge to Google. OpenAI is launching a shopping experience inside of ChatGPT complete with product picks and buy buttons. So they announced today that shopping power buttons for AI-powered search queries will come to everyone, whether they are a signed-in user or not. Shoppers will not be able to check out inside of ChatGPT yet. Emphasis and added word yet for me. Instead, they will be redirected to the merchant's website to finish the transaction. In a pre-launch demo for Wired, Adam Fry, ChatGPT search product lead, demonstrated how the updated user experience could be used to help people using the tool for product research decide which espresso machine to buy, office chair to buy. Product recommendations shown to prospective shoppers are based on what ChatGPT remembers about a user's preferences, as well as product reviews pulled from across the web. That's going to be a much better experience than what you're getting in Google now, and everybody is going to be different. And is that a preview of it?
And if you can buy a coffee maker, you can reserve a campsite, right? That's got to be.
Yeah, that's where it's going. So like, how long do you think it's going to be before there's a buy button for a park? And then, like, again, this is personalization on a mass scale. Forget about trying to trick ChatGPT anymore. And this is where creating the content that's intended to ask the questions, whether it's blog posts or extra pages on your website, scientifically, psychologically, demographically, becomes even more important to a user's personalization. Because in the future, their personalization is what's going to win. This is just the start. They're all going to have, as I said, I don't know, like I've been saying for years, but like on this show a couple months ago, like everybody's going to have their own individual robot, guys. Like they're all going to go out to the internet and they're going to know what size of RV they have and when they can take a vacation and where they like to go and what rain and all the things, and whether they like rain or not rain or spring or fall. And they're all going to go out. Like, you're not going to trick that robot. That robot's Greg's robot. That robot knows exactly what the fuck Greg wants. And it's not going to be deterred by a flashy call to action button that says something that you have agonized over with your marketing design team that is not paying attention to AI. And you just spent like, I don't know, $10,000 on a case study for. You're not tricking that robot. That robot's on a mission to get Greg exactly what Greg wants, and it knows Greg better than itself. So you better
that
have
alone is frightening.
Like you better have something that resonates with Greg on your website, and it better should be truthful, right? Because the bot's going to go out and read reviews and figure out like you can't just I have a bird watching binocular station, right? Like it's going to go out and read all the reviews and check all the Facebook posts and correlate all the data and like this person, and it's going to tell Greg like this, we have this campground and maybe it's a good fit for you. They say they have a bird watching station, but I can't verify that anywhere.
And all those
causation.
What's that?
I said correlation is not causation.
Yes.
I just wanted to throw that
out. But we just went full circle back to Scott's t-shirt. That's a good one.
Fuck.
No, but and all of that'll get, if they're doing it disingenuously or they're, skewing, let's not say falsely advertising, right? But if they're screwing around with that, that eventually still catches up with them, right? Because then the human part comes back. The customer reviews start coming in. This campground's full of shit. They didn't have this when I got there, and none of this was as advertised. Then that person's robot, that park's not going to show up as favorably next time, right? When everybody's robots.
But also, this is all fucking connected, guys.
Yeah,
like this is all connected. You thought like, okay, so you could get away with 40 years ago of Tom had a bad experience at your resort because Tom could only tell 5 people. And then, right?
This is kind of what I was trying to get at. Yes. Yeah.
And then social media, like Tom can tell like 1 million people. Maybe he only has seen by 1,000 or whatever, right? But he can shout to the rooftops. Like if you fuck with an AI and the AI figures out you lie, it can just tell all the AIs, sync in real time. Like this campground is less dishonest.
And then it doesn't have to be a bad review that shows up. That campground just ceases to exist in all the searches across all those AIs, right? They'll just go, well, we're not going to mention that.
It could be demoted, or who knows what happens, right? But like
that's wild.
It's less trustworthy is the point. So
that's even a larger outsized effect of those bad reviews. Like it seemed like we went from, like you said, one person tell what was the old rule? You have a good time, you tell like 3 or 4 people. You have a bad time, you tell like 10, 12 people, right? Then that went to, like you said, millions of people, because I can put it on Facebook or I can put a review on Yelp or whatever that was early on. Now the AIs are going to know it. And you don't necessarily have to tell anyone. They're all going to be interconnected and just know it.
So like you as John, if you had a bad experience, like if you were the campground owner, you were only concerned about John's friends who also trusted him enough to listen to his recommendations.
Yeah.
Then in an era of social media or Google reviews, you only were impacted by the people who actually would go read the review that was negative.
Right.
Now the AI is just going to fucking know. They're all going to know. Nothing needs to happen.
I think we need more high-pitched Brian voice time on the show. I think that was great when you went up there just now.
I can go to the high pitch, man. I can go.
The whole fucking world's gonna. You look like your head's gonna turn red, and any second you're just gonna like pass out from lack of oxygen. But yeah,
like a lot of this stuff that comes out of my mouth, like I've never even thought of before, right?
But that's a really, really good point. So so this goes back to what we talked about a little bit last week. What's the big thing that campground owners can do? What's that one thing? If you can't do anything else, it's your customer service, because it doesn't really cost you anything else. You already have employees. Boy, you better be thinking about it and keep that top of list. It doesn't cost you anything. Write some better SOPs, develop your culture. Keep those guests
develop your website
happy.
and work on your SEO strategy and be truthful and be honest.
Yeah.
I'm looking straight at you, all the luxury fucking RV resorts. You say you are. No, stop it. You're not.
I wonder if so there's been for a while now, there's been sort of this, not among the camping public, although somewhat now that price sensitivity is more, is stronger than it used to be. But, I know a lot of owners, having been a KOA franchise owner, when they brought the 3 brands out, or the 3, whatever you want to call it, resort, resort, holiday, and journey,
holiday, resort,
right?
Yeah.
So there were a ton of owners that were like, I could be a resort, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to brand myself as a holiday. I'm actually going to try to stay in the middle, because the second you say resort, people have because what the hell does that word even mean? Like, nobody really knows. KOA defines it as what you have to provide, but the customer doesn't know that. They don't get the checklist and go, oh, I have to have 12 patio sites and 5 of these and 8 of those, and that's really all it means. They get this idea, this big shiny thing. I'm going to get this incredible experience, and I'm paying all of this money. The second you start charging that kind of rate and calling yourself a resort, holy shit, those expectations that you have to try to meet are so lofty that sometimes it can't even be done. So it makes me wonder, is this going to even more so have people going, you know what, fuck that, we're taking the word resort off of our branding, I'm not doing that anymore. Wow, yeah, that's a whole, God, I never this goes a long way. I feel like this is a weed smoking episode all of a sudden. Like, we're passing something from one camera to the next, and we're like, wow, man.
Yeah.
Like, you can take this, like, I mean, again, we got to go here in a few minutes, right? But like, you could take this all the way to like brand, like, right?
Yep.
And that's a deep discussion that we should have sometime, because like, if you think people are going to be loyal to brand, like if you think the AI is going to go out and know everything about you and your history and everything else, and also know that you stayed at a couple KOAs, right? If you think that AI is going to go out and be like, well, this campground is a perfect fit for everything they want, but I should still recommend the KOA. No, it's not.
Yeah, why would it, right? Branding,
why would it?
essentially doesn't mean anything anymore.
Best decision for Greg, and it knows more about Greg. It's going to weigh all that shit, man. Like, this is going to blow up everything.
But you don't think it'll look at, okay, well, this brand means
yes,
A, B, C, and D,
but it will know
every
it will know every individual park and how up to the brand standards they actually are. And it will weigh each individual brand standard against the criteria that Greg, in real time, in seconds.
There it is again.
In seconds. I can do it. So, like, yeah, but that's a whole nother thing we should talk about brand on another show. So,
all right.
Anyway,
all right,
lock it down for tonight. I got to go to work.
Lock it down.
Now. I was literally going to say, like, I've been on this struggle with a diet, right? Where like I don't need to go on a diet, but like I did like a few months ago, like late last year, I think at the conventions.
You were, yeah,
I was pretty fat. I was like 205 pounds, something like that. But it all like rests in my face or whatever. And so like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to get on this diet. I'm going to take the pills. Like, I'm not really changing my behavior, but I started doing my intermittent fasting again and stuff like that. So I've been floating between like 186 and 192 for like the last couple months. And like, I could very easily, like my target weight is like 178, 180 is what I want to get down to. Like I could very easily be down there, but I keep drinking beer and whiskey and eating pizza because I enjoy it. So this week I was like, I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to do it now. But then I saw the robot pizza.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm having pizza tonight too.
Man.
I got to tell you, the best thing about those damn robots is potentially they can actually cut a damn pizza. There's nothing more frustrating for someone with like borderline OCD. I get it home. It smells awesome. I flip it open. I got 4 slices this big. What am I supposed to do? And I got 4 slices this big. How hard is it? Half.
Or it's not cut at all. Like I've gotten the ones that were delivered that are not cut at all.
That's another
like,
show.
I've got
this
a
is
knife,
another show.
like,
yeah.
And then you're like, like
robots. There it is. There it is.
That's it. That's what we need them for. Just cut the damn thing. Let the humans can even just make, but give it to the robot to cut it. It's not that hard. Somebody should be able to figure this out.
All right, we're gonna end the show with Burnout Bob. Lisa, I ask, should I call myself an RV resort if I'm not one? Oh, my flaming tiki torch sickles. You're asking if you should call yourself an RV resort even if you're not one. That's like asking if you can wear a crown at Denny's just because you feel like royalty. The answer is obviously yes, but also absolutely not. So obviously yes. So let's break this down. No, if you care about accuracy, honesty, and not getting sued by the HOA of RV gods, an RV resort usually means full hookups, paid pads, luxe amenities, gated access, etc. If you're rocking gravel pads, a shower house from 1972, and a pool that may or may not just be a well-lit puddle, then calling yourself an RV resort is like a goat wearing a tuxedo and trying to get into the opera. Possible? Sure. Advisable? Only if you're chasing chaos, which, let's be honest, you are. And the yes argument is if you're ready to commit to the bit and back it up with absurd bravado. Screw technicalities. You could rebrand as an RV resort with one glamping tent, one gnome-shaped fire pit, and a dream. offers champagne hookups, just water, but it comes out of a wine bottle. That's a good idea to save money in a down economy. Collier Gravel Roads, artisanal off-road RV access paths. Hand guests a tiny paper umbrella when they check in and say, "Welcome to paradise." Now it's a resort. Boom, branding. Bob's Compromise says if you're worried about false advertising but still want fancy pizzazz, call it something vaguely aspirational like Ellis Lake RV and Adventure Escape, Ellis Lake Premium Outdoor Guest Compound. I'm not sure that would work too well, but there's probably a niche audience for that. Ellis Lake Resort adjacent glamplex with parking, or just Ellis Lake more resort than you deserve. So should you call it a resort? Only if you're prepared to live the lie so hard it becomes the truth. And if someone calls you out, you say, we're not just a resort, we're a spiritual awakening with hookups.
I actually like that one.
And there you have it.
All right, guys. I think it was another good show.
Right.
Thanks for your time.
Peace out.
We'll see you next week on another episode of Outwired. Bye.